back me up here on what to tell you about vases. And, you know, Ikebana artists are concerned with the same principles as other artists like you. It says proportion, line, mass, balance. Ikebana arrangements are usually asymmetrical, but balanced. You know, the containers can be like that. And surface treatment. There are Moribana containers, which are low, like this, and they can be round, rectangular, or irregular shaped. And we've been measuring, that's what all these devices are here for. And we've got everything from 2 inches. This is a vase that Michiko has brought back from Japan. And I think this one that I got from John McGinley at San Jose City College is 3.5. I'm sure he intended it to be a baking dish, but I looked at it and said, oh, I want that for flowers. There's always a need for low cost, you know, I'd say under $25, plain round, square, or rectangular vessels for the beginning student. And there seem to be a lot of people looking for that kind of thing at our sale. They wanted a plain, round, flat base. They like a nice flat bottom because when you put the kenzan in, you know, in the summer, it could be to the back, and you show the water. In the winter, you move it up to the front. This one could have, you say you put as many as 3 kenzans in there for kind of a multiple stage arrangement. And this is the sort of the depth measure. You know, you want that to go in the container and have sufficient water to cover it without, you know, the flowers will drink up a lot of water. You know, you keep refilling it all the time. Okay, accomplished practitioners of Ikebana already have lots of vases. So if you want to attract their attention, you really need to kind of create something unusual. And you look at some of the pictures that I've posted back there, several of them, the bigger portion are hand-built vases because they have the more unusual shapes, and these are the vases that people were using at our last flower show. 3 of them up there is made by the potter, member, Gordon Ward. And you can see how unusual his are. Nagari, did I say that right? Nagari? Nagari. I have a little trouble with my Japanese. They're in the tall, narrow containers. And large arrangements usually require a vase that's at least 14 inches tall. We've got another measuring thing. This is a small one, you know, it's only 9 inches tall, but it's good for a medium. And this one is 13. And the arrangement over there, I think, what would it measure at?
15.
15.
15.
And I asked one of my teachers for the vase that she uses all the time, and it was 19 inches tall. You know, probably she uses it more for demonstrations in front of people or big arrangements at the flower show. There's variations on these styles. There's the compote, which is basically a bowl shape on the tall base. And that allows trailing branches to come out of the arrangement. The arrangements always are looking towards the viewer and leaning that way. And that is one reason you need an opening that is not too narrow, so the branches can lean forward. This kind of vase here with the shoulder is really nice. It has the shoulder so the branch can hook under the shoulder to lean forward. It also has got enough of a ridge that you can put the cross support in there. We always take branches and put them across the opening in order to create separate spaces to put branches and flowers under. So if you did a shoulder vase, then you'd want to have it fairly flat and not too tall at the top, so that they could do the cross support.
Question.
There's
Question.
Yeah.
The bottom is all the way to the bottom, or you have a bottom about halfway up, or this. So stem has to be that long.
Oh, no, the stems often just lean against the side of the vase, like halfway down.
Oh.
You cut them.
Support in there,
Okay.
and the branch will be coming up this way.
So I don't have to have a bottom up, a halfway up.
No,
Oh.
you don't. Because they often attach a separate support, or the branch is cut at a 45-degree angle and flattened down there so that it can lean against the side of the vase. They're very clever about the things they attach to secure these. Round pots are used, bowls, basket shape, irregular extruded shapes. You can see a lot on the back there of extruded pieces. This was an extruded piece. With that hanging vase, I brought this one because the shape is pretty good. It's heavy as all get out, so I don't really use it. But it basically was just thrown and then flattened and a hole made to hang it from. And I didn't make the hole big enough to put this peg in, so I had to like that. But it's way too heavy for actual use. There you go. Hand-built architectural shapes. They could have a notch on the top to help hold a branch. It kind of limits the branch to only going that way, but that one over there has somewhat of a notch in one spot, which helps hold that tall branch going out. And they often have several openings on these more architectural pieces that you can put flowers in different places, or sometimes the opening is just another point of interest, even though there isn't a flowers in that opening. And paired vases are very good.
Can be there is some place to make the hole, or can be anywhere?
Oh,
Either a set proportion of where
Yeah,
it should
proportion.
be, or
Would
is
you
it just
be-
kind of random?
the holes?
Yeah.
Well, you have to think about the depth of the water. I have one piece that I made a really nice extruded piece and shaped it and cut it down here and then twisted it so I rejoined it here. But of course, the water can only go down here. So that is the consideration, how far down does the branch have to go to get to the water? So
What about the weight now? You have a big branch like that, steady, it has to be certain heaviness, right? Otherwise tip over.
it's, you get water in them and they are heavier, so they don't tip so much. Wouldn't you say, that? Yeah, I noticed some people making some vases in the pottery studio that had the openings leaning forward. Well, that maybe is a little bit too much, because it leans forward and then the branches lean forward. And if you notice back in the pictures of the people that are from Ikebana, they use a lot of vases with a very small base, tall, flaring, and they're extremely balanced when they put the arrangements in. This is a lower one, yeah, of the same school, but some of them are the base is very small and the top is quite large because they like to view the water. So they view the water is just as a part of the symbol, or yeah. Okay. Surface color and decoration. Okay. Ikebana is very much a study of nature, and colors and textures that are a reminder of nature, I think, are very much appreciated. Earth tones, even unglazed surfaces, and it's glazed on the inside, and then the outside is maybe textured and bare, is good. Black, white, often a matte white, dark navy blue can be good. And celadon, is priced, but some blues and greens often limit what greenery you can use in them. I like this one. I like the shape and everything, and it works well, but you know, it's kind of a blue-green, and a yellow-green leaf doesn't look very good in it, and you kind of want the, would you say, the flowers, the leaves to look separate from the vase, so it's not a particularly good thing. So I usually say yellow-green plant material does not look good in a blue-green vase. Red and yellow can be great for particular seasons, holidays, and certain flowers, but they won't be used that much because not that many things can go in there, right? If you do a totally unglazed vessel, you surely need to know that your vase is watertight when unglazed, and check the clay absorption level and all that stuff, if you know how to do that. The surface of the vase can be decorated, but not in a manner that would clash with the floral material. You know, a surface that is painted with flowers pretty much limits that vase to only those flowers. Overall patterns work. You know, this is kind of a beautiful pattern on this matte white vase here. Texture works. This kind of texture on here. And glazes that run and blend and streak and break over the texture are really nice. Openings for the vase should not be too narrow back to front. That's because of the leaning of the floral material. If it's too small, it makes them go upright, and that's about all, unless the branch leans that way itself, and it has a bend in it.
So do you know what the measurement for that opening should be at the minimum? In other words, what would be too small?
You know, it's a vase that comes up, you know, and then goes to a very small opening is not going to work for very much, if anything. The proportion that looks right for the vase, I think, is better. Would you say, now this one is not too deep back to front, but that is sufficient for leaning?
And then sometimes if you need some support, you could put wire in here for support.
To hook it. Yes.
Yeah.
So, you see what about that?
Could you say something about the support that you have inside this piece down here? You've got some wire.
I'm sorry.
You've got some wire that's all bent.
Oh, yes, this is some, we were just talking about putting wire in there to help support the floral stuff. That's one of the ways, other than the Kenzan or these branch supports that you were talking about, where you split them and put the stem in and fasten them together. The inside of the neck of the vase could be textured. And that helps with the positioning of the cross supports that are put in there to help hold the flowers. Like that vase over there has got for that arrangement, I've got a branch wedged in across there. And if you texture that area, not right at the top, but would you say about an inch down, Michiko? Then those supports can be put in there easily. Really slick surfaces, you know, it's really hard to get them to stay in there, so that's another technique that they will be appreciated. Adding feet or creating a tall throne foot like that really adds interest to the vase. Is there anything that anybody has that they'd like to ask that I might not have covered?
Is there like a minimum size? You're talking about like the beginner basic dishes. Is there a minimum size
first started, I know this started in Michiko, they told us, bring your Pyrex baking dish. You know, that's your sort of average size. When you have multiple vases that go together, you know, I've seen some of the small, you can see one of those up there, the 3 vases up there in the middle, those are quite small, but there's several of them, and that's what it is. So,
Depends on the situation.
it depends on the situation. I think proportions, you know, you kind of, the golden mean kind of thing, 1/3, 2/3, kind of is standard for most things. I don't know if you're like me, I've thrown something and then I pick it up to eye level and say, oh, it should have been taller. It should have been this or that, you know. Your eye usually can tell you what's pleasing, and that we go. Yeah.
To make a bowl that flares upward, which probably would require a frog or a penknife. How large of a frog should I have room for?
This is pretty much the basic pin frog that Screenwriting uses. They also come round and triangular, and some with even taller needles to put on there. So the flat surface, as I said, if it's large enough that the pin frog can be moved around in different places, that's good because of the nature. You know, but if it's a bowl type shape, you want to make sure that at least a good flat spot in the middle, you know, and then it's, yeah.
How large is that? If I make a small
This-
top of a small.
Yeah, this is 1 inch tall, you know. Oh, and the 4 by 2 3/4 for this one. So as I say, you can get them in all sizes. So
If I make a pot that is going to require a long bit, am I going to provide it?
no. I think Ikebana people have quite a few already, so they would.
Do you put the pin frog?
No,
No?
no. They're only in the low flat ones. Or this one is an Ikenova vase, and it would be filled with gravel, like this, all the way up to here, remember that? And the pin frog would sit on top. Ikenova has very strict rules. Everything is lined up front to back. And every branch has a meaning, you know, the past, the future, you know. It is sort of it's the beginning of Ikebana, isn't it? Shoulder that you could hook. It definitely has, a shoulder type thing that you could hook the branch on. The opening is not too big, so you couldn't put a whole bunch of material in there, but then it's not that big of a vase, so you probably wouldn't. You couldn't put any cross supports in here because of the way it's constructed. I think the color's good, would go with most anything. This one, I think you'd have to use more like the Ikenobo and fill it with the gravel.
That would be nice.
And make a nice Ikenobo vase. The color's good. You know, it would go with just about anything that you put in it around there.
Irene, is it better to have a dark inside or a light colored inside? Is white or black on the inside?
On the inside. Well, I would make it consistent with the outside, and if it's light colored, I can make it light all the way around. I think the white or the lighter things are more springy, and this is more like fall and winter. This one you might be able to get cross supports in there. but it's better to have a, more of a flat spot. What do you think? Do you think you could still, it's got kind of a, yeah.
It was not made as a vase, but
Right.
rather just a seed.
Uh-huh. And if I was going to use it, most likely I would probably fill up to about here with something and then put the pin frog on it, because then my branches could lean forward. If they started at the bottom, there's only so far they could lean. But
And there's also small pin frogs that you can put on the bottom,
yeah,
with the surrounding.
could do that.
And then you could put the branch in there, and then have a floor too.
Now, is that still enough blue, or is it still too blue where it makes it hard to use?
I think this one would be okay, It goes, it's got almost blue, it's kind of green, it's got a brown, and,
Kind of gray.
so it's,
It's not glaring.
it's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So you find the material to use it, that would be very beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, this vase here, I'm very pleased with the, mostly unglazed, just the stain and the texture pattern there. I brought some copies of this. I made it for Ikebana people if they're having a problem with their vase. And the only thing that probably you would want to know about if you're selling a vase is some of the vases, they sort of seep, they weep, through the bottom, no matter what you do. If it's high fired, it still is doing it. But if you paint it with this glazing seal, which is a concrete masonry lacquer, not the water base, but the lacquer base, concrete sealer, it takes care of that.
You paint it on the bottom or you paint it inside?
I paint it on the bottom.
On the bottom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not going down inside, but actually
Right.
on the...
Yeah. I have painted raccoon pieces with it, and it in the inside, and it will seal the raccoon piece up so you can use it with water. But it's shiny, so you don't want to drip it on the outside. The raccoon piece that you see in that picture up there in the upper right-hand corner, there is a beautiful, tall piece, and that has a glass vase inside it. You want to use it around that. So anyhow, there's copies here if anybody wants to know about that. You've got vases at home that you need to fix, that you love, but a piece broke off, there's a magic glue and repair. Yeah,
Just out of curiosity, when they have the Ikebana shows, do they actually bring the finished pieces in, or do they do them there a few hours before the show?
We make the arrangements there at the show. Yeah.
I was wondering, that would be pretty hard.
Yeah, I told it this one here, it's fairly, secure.
And how long did it take you to do that?
That was one of those where everything just went easy. Sometimes you get that, in pottery too. Sometimes it just goes easy, other times you fight with it. So, good at.
What is the green stuff in that? Is that a pine?
That is a pine, and my Ikebana teacher picked it up at the San Francisco Flower Mart, and the guy didn't know what kind of pine it was, so we don't know that she'd never seen it before, and neither did I, but this didn't have a great line. The Ikebana people always love line and mass, and when they think of their arrangement kind of like a triangle pyramid, standing on its point, and it's heaven, man, earth, and they're all, leaning toward you.
Does anybody ever do porcelain for
Porcelain? Oh, yeah. Anything. I think these good Ikebana people can arrange anything. That's right. I know that I picked up 2 pieces from the Empty Bowls dinner one year, and they're just funky little things, but they're, 2 of them that kind of go together, and I love it, So, yeah. Christina brought the pictures from the last flower show, and I think she had some from the the young museum, Brocade Arts there too. We're kind of cycling through down there.
Right.
So if you want to see some more. Any other questions? If you want to look at the pictures that are posted up there and ask me anything, several of them are done by potters we know, Mackenzie's, Bruno Park, and Gordon Ward is the other poster potter from over in the East Bay. And, I especially like that one. I took a close-up of the vase down there in Floral. They did this and curled the edge. So interesting.
Irene, can you point out the difference of the pictures there and tell us why, members would be attracted?
Of those?
Yeah.
That's up there, what I like about them. I think when I look at all of them, the proportions are all so great. They aren't too fat for their heights or anything like that. And they all have character. These here were done, and this one by Gordon Ward. And you can see they're all hand-built, curvy. This one obviously is very well balanced to him being able to lean the things out and not have it fall over. Texture, I love texture, so these pieces of Bob Kinsey's texture are very appealing to me. This is a wonderful basket shape. I can't quite decide whether it was thrown and altered or just completely hand-built. This is a good example of a double arrangement with vases of completely different shape, but matching glazes that go so nicely together. These are hanging vases, all look like fan shape, kind of, I think Barbara was doing some with her class of that.
That one,
Suji Akeda made these, and they've got
he's going to demonstrate tomorrow.
they have a bowl shape, or what kind of a shape is behind the fan part?
Oh, the fan part, you have just a little opening, it's a round opening there.
And what's behind is it a square bowl shape?
Or something that.
Yeah. But that's why it set flat against your boards for the. There's a Bruno Kark one that just shows an example of the several openings. Got one here, one here, one here, and the top opening.
Is there some rules?
Some rule for the openings? Yeah, well, it's another one thing where you've got to kind of look at your proportions, and what fits the shape, and you have to realize then that the water can only go up as far as that. When you do, this is a good example. Sometimes you see these extruded ones, they have more than one thing coming up.
I have one of those.
I have one of those in the picture.
Yeah, and unless you block off each one, you can't have independent water levels. The Bruno Kark told me that, he bends them with a stick, to get the fairly crisp thing, and then he puts some glass in the bottom of the tube to make sure that it seals up. The first one I made, I didn't consider the fact that this was only this height and this was this height. So, the water in this side can only go that high. Good, yeah, okay. Things like this are very difficult to arrange. And see, someone's done a lovely lovely job here, but when the branches will only go the angle of the vase, it is quite limiting. Well, it doesn't have a, it's got just one coming up here. If it had another one going this way, you know, it would be a little more difficult, like this has an opening, you know, one this way and one this way, and it can only crisscross or leave something out of one of the openings.
So Irene, I have one of the, actually one piece here on the projector. It's one piece with multiple extruded round tube coming out. So there's a base, and then they're slightly at different height, and they're all not straight up. They're kind of leaning either toward each other or away. So I don't know where you want to. This is from the Spring Bouquet to Arts at the Young Museum. So I think this is one of the items that you were saying, that there are multiple.
It probably leans because when you work with those extruded pieces, it's very hard to keep them straight. Found that. But this probably follows the heaven, man, earth in the height of those tubes, so that you can get the same.
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
1/3, 2/3, you know.
Oh, I see. So the tube itself, even though there be multiple, they follow some kind of rule?
Well, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it.
I see.
You know, if they were all the same height,
Okay.
you,
So like the shortest one will be the 1/3 of the tallest piece, and then
Yeah.
there's something in between as well.
anything else?
Rotating it. Okay. So this again at the Young Museum, and I think that's a pottery piece too.
And Bouquet de Arts is a wonderful thing to go to.
So I have a question about this one. Usually when I make vases, people don't tend to like to have holes on the top. But this one was an unusual. The Ikebana person made the pot himself. And obviously you can see that there are a lot of holes. He cut through the, sorry, let's go back there. So is that something, what do you call, easy to use, or would that be very specific purpose that perhaps we shouldn't make with large quantity? That's what I'm saying, because you know, if you make 5 of those, you may not sell any.
Well, it's say it is a very unusual vase, and might really appeal to Ikebana artist who has lots of vases, you know, because it's a challenge, and too. There's a lot of interesting way they had things going through there.
Right. So
Don't do 5.
No.
no. Exactly.
Just make one each.
2.
Yeah.
2 is always good.
Right. So, yeah, you can always sell a lot of the pretty much plain, tall, flat, to any, you know, the beginning students. Something like that, I'm sure would be, you say it was made by the
Right.
clay artist.
The clay artist, and he did the arrangement as well.
Yeah. Well, they're challenging themselves, that's for sure. It's a lovely thing. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I hope it was helpful.
Yes, it was. Thank you.